What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolve video. I want to go ahead and apologize to anyone who was looking forward to the VOD that would happen on Monday, that being yesterday. I wasn't able to attend on Sunday because I wasn't feeling too well. I got very sick, and I don't know what happened, but I was able to feel better, towards the end of the day yesterday. But I'm glad we're able to do the sword reveals today, and I'm sorry if I sound a little under the weather, but I'm still recovering. Alright, and go ahead and get back on topic. We're going to be talking about Sword today, and I know Sword is really good at spamming at the board and having a whole bunch of Storm followers that are able to swing for not a lot of damage, but there's going to be a lot of followers on the field usually playing Sword. So I wonder what comes out in set 4 for Sword, so let's figure that out. Alright, so the first card we have is Armor of the Stars. It's a 2-cost spell, and you can choose one of your followers and give it +1/+2 and Aura. So this is pretty interesting. There's only 2 cards I can think of in Swordcraft that already have Aura or gain Aura, and that's Aurelia and Narita Bryan. And those 2 cards are exceptionally strong because they have such strong board presence as soon as you play them, like Narita Bryan. She's a ward with Aura with Bane, so you engage her from her ability, deal 5 to your opponent. And then your opponent has to swing into Narita Bryan before they can swing into you. And if they don't take care of that Narita Bryan, she swings for a whole lot of damage on that crackback. But getting back to Armor of the Stars, just giving any follower Aura or any sort of buff, but just the main fact that you can give something Aura is just very strong, because if you need a follower to stay on the field, then you can give it Aura, leave it unengaged, nothing's going to touch it unless they have some sort of board wipe, and that's very awesome. Alright, next up we have Barbarosa. So it's a 5-cost 6/5. If there are 3 or more enemy cards on the field, you may play this card for 2 less. You can evolve it from 1, and this card has a sail. One thing I want to point out from the wording of this card actually counts amulets on the field too, which is pretty interesting, because it doesn't say enemy followers, it says enemy cards on the field. So if they have 3 amulets or 3 amulets and followers on the field, this card becomes a 3-cost. And a 3-cost 6/5 with the sail isn't that bad, I just wish it had rush, but you can evolve it for 1. So let's figure out what this Evo does. Alright, so we have Barbarosa evolved, so it still has a sail, but it does have the last words effect to put this card into your EX area. So a pretty interesting ability. The fact that he has a sail and can swing at unengaged followers is always nice in Swordcraft, and also it has that last words effect, so whenever he dies, he gets put into the EX area so you can play him again. Alright, next up we have Cyclone Blade. It's a 3-cost spell. You can choose one of your commander followers and deal damage to all enemy followers equal to the chosen follower's attack. Finally, Swordcraft has a way to board wipe in some shape or form, because Swordcraft was struggling with the on-hit removal with stuff like this. So just make sure you have a commander on the field and it does maybe 5 damage, and then you use Cyclone Blade, and then you can choose your commander that does 5 damage and deal 5 damage to the field, and it's absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, I know it has the restriction of a commander follower, but if you're playing Swordcraft, I think you can be a little flexible what you want, because there are a lot of commanders and officers in Swordcraft. Alright, so next up we have Flail Knight. So she's a 2-cost 2/3. She has a strike ability to choose an enemy follower and deal 1 damage to its leader. Nothing too crazy for a 2-drop, but I feel like going into the future with Hero Sword being what it is and very powerful, I think Flail Knight will be a pretty good staple to put in your deck just for that extra 1 damage you can do to your opponent. Alright, and we have our first legendary. So we have Gawain of the Round Table. So he's a 5-cost 5/5, and he's a rush. As long as this card is on the field, when you play a commander card for the first time this turn, you reduce 1 from its cost. And then, fanfare, you reveal 2 commander or 2 round table cards from your hand, and then you recover 2 play points. Alright, a pretty interesting legendary, with the fact that it also comes with a very weird ruling, because it kind of works kind of like Daiwa Scarlet. So Daiwa Scarlet specifically says you need 3 spells in that same turn to give something Storm. Or for instance, whenever you play your first spell, reduce it by 1 as long as she's on the field, but it doesn't say that. So you play, let's say I use Lamplit before I get Daiwa Scarlet or Flowers for You. Well, if I've already used 2 of those spells and then I play Daiwa Scarlet, unfortunately the next spell isn't going to cost 1 less, because that's not how it works. But with Gawain, as long as he's on the field, it does check for the first commander you play, so it does reduce its cost from 1. Now don't quote me, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Now if you disagree with that, please let me know in the comments below so I can know correctly, but that's just what I know so far. But the second half of this ability really does help with it, because you can reveal 2 commanders or 2 round tables and then recover 2 play points, and you could potentially play those with those 2 play points, especially if you're reducing their cost by 1. Alright, next up we have Lord General Romeo. So he's a 3-cost 3/4. When you play this card, if there's a Princess Juliet on your field, you subtract 2 from his cost, and then he has Ward. And at the start of your end phase, if there's a Princess Juliet in your field, you add 2 to your leader's defense. Alright, I see we got some Romeo and Juliet going on, but one thing I don't like about card combinations, if I don't have A, then you know, B doesn't really work out. If I don't have B, A doesn't really work out. I never really like those card combinations because the whole point of Shadowverse right now, or just in general, is that cards like this won't stick on the field, especially if he has Ward. I know he subtracts himself and becomes a 1 cost, a 1/3/4, isn't that bad, but the fact that you need Princess Juliet on the field, or probably Juliet needs Romeo, it's just not going to work out because one of them's probably going to get removed off the field and then you won't get that effect, and then you'll have to attempt to play the other one to see if you can get the other one out on the field, and it just seems like a back and forth situation that might never work out. But if it does work out, I believe these abilities are pretty strong because as long as Princess Juliet's on the field, he gets that +2 defense to your leader every turn, every end phase, which is pretty nice, but I don't see it working out that way. Alright, we have another legendary. We have Mars Silent Flame General. She's a 3 cost 3/2. You can evolve her for free, and when an officer follower comes onto your field, it gets +1/+0. Okay, so I can see some officers getting a whole bunch of support. This is definitely going to be a staple just so your officers can be a whole lot stronger whenever you play them. So let's go ahead and figure what her evolve does. And we have Mars Silent Flame General evolve. So when an officer follower comes onto your field, it gets +1/+0. So on evolve, X play points, search for an officer follower with cost X or lower from your deck and put it onto the field. A very interesting card for officers. So at any point when you do Mars Silent Flame General, she's a free Evo. Go ahead and do her Evo for free and commit those play points to whatever you want. You know, however many play points you want to commit, you know, anything less than 10. Honestly, because that's the max that we have. So anything less than 10, you can get an officer from your deck and go ahead and put it into play. It gets that buff, and then potentially those fanfares for the officers go off. So that would be pretty cool. It's also the fact that this card doesn't statically give officers +1/+0 as long as she's out on the field. No, it's just whenever you play an officer, it gets that permanent buff. And I can only think of the crazy combinations people can think of with Royal Banner and also Leonidas Resolve being a thing. Alright, and we have Percus. He's a 1 cost 2/2. When he comes into play, if there are 4 or more followers on your field, this card gets +1/+1. Not bad. If you're filling up the board with Floral Fencer, you know, you already have Floral Fencer, and then Floral Fencer spawns out 2 more guys. If you have another 1 cost and then you play Percus, you have a board full, which, you know, isn't really a good thing, especially with like small guys. But if you're filling the board in the early turns and then doing a whole bunch of damage, your opponent has to deal with these cards. So I feel like this card's pretty good. Next up, we have Pollock. So he's a 4 cost 5/5. When he comes into play, if there are followers other than Royal on your field, gain +1/+1 and Rush. Not too bad for a bronze card. Alright, and we have Princess Juliet. So she's a 3 cost 3/2. When you play this card, if there's a Lord General Romeo on your field, subtract 2 from the cost of this card. She has Storm, and at the start of your end phase, if there's a Lord General Romeo on your field, choose an enemy follower and deal 2 damage to it. Alright, so like I said before, with the 2 combination cards, you know, this is cute and everything, but the fact that if you actually do resolve these cards, they're definitely going to be doing the heal 2, deal 2, that's pretty interesting. And the fact that Princess Juliet is a 1 cost Storm, and if you just have 1 Lord General Romeo on the field, you can play out these Juliets for a lot cheaper, which is absolutely amazing. Alright, and we have Round Table Assembly, so it's a 1 cost spell. You can choose one of the following. You can either 1, search for a Round Table follower from your deck and add it to your hand, or 2, you can choose one of your Round Table followers and it gets +1/+2. So absolutely like cards like this that give me the multitude of what I want to do. You know, if I'm having trouble finding a Round Table follower from my deck, I can go ahead and add any one of them to my hand. Or if I'm running low on round tables in my deck and I need some proactive, you know, permanent buff to do to one of my followers, that being a round table one, I can go ahead and do that. Alright, next up we have Shrouded Assassin. So it's a 2 cost 1/2. You can evolve it for 2 and it has Bane. Alright, a pretty interesting card. Let's figure out what this Evo does. So we have Shrouded Assassin evolve, so it has a Sail and Bane. Alright, so Swordcraft finally has their own version of Shape-Shifting Mage, and I'm finally happy for them. Next up, we have Tristan of the Round Tables. He's 2 cost 2/2. You can evolve him for 1, and he has Ward. Pretty interesting 2 cost. Is this better than Veteran Lancer or Ironward Defender? Probably not than Ironward Defender since he's so archetypal. But on the fact of Veteran Lancer is a 2 cost 2/3, so she has more of a defense, but Tristan does have an evolve. So let's figure out what this evolve does. So we have Tristan of the Round Table Evolve. So it has Ward, and then on Evolve, you choose a Round Table card from your graveyard and add it to your hand. Pretty nice. I feel like this will definitely be a replacement for Veteran Lancer if you're using the Round Table line, so you can eventually get a card from your cemetery if need be. Alright, and here are all the alternate cards for Swordcraft. Unfortunately, there's only one of them. I don't know what was going on. They couldn't give Suzaku any more love, which hurts my heart because he's one of my favorite characters, but I still love the anime in general. But it does come in the form of Cyclone Blade, which isn't bad because it is the board wipe for Swordcraft, so I gotta give it to them for that. Yeah, just judging by how everything we've seen so far looks like officers might be something of the new line we might need to look forward to. Make sure you know what officer cards are coming out, but if you don't know and you want to build officers, go ahead and wait for my video, the Inverse Academy. That'll definitely be an episode we'll be doing in the future, so look out for that. Well, alright guys, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. You don't know how much it means to me that I was able to be sick and you guys didn't pelt me with anything. I love you guys so much. Make sure you're safe in whatever you do tonight and safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
I gave you all my love, baby, my heart is cold when you're around. You warm it up, liquid gold, baby, yeah, you warm it up, liquid gold, baby, and my affection, all that paper you wasted. Take my love.